Welcome, everybody, to the Heartful of Hallmark podcast. What did I just say? We're at the Heartful of Hallmark podcast. Why are we talking about a great American family movie? Well, because we don't discriminate. We love all the channels. It's all the same philosophy, all the same stars, the lovable stories. We are a rom-com channel instead of just Hallmark. But I'm here with the director of A Christmas Castle Proposal, A Prince in Paradise 2, Adrian Powers. How are you doing today?
I am very, very well, Noah. I'm very well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's an honor to talk to you, and I can't wait to see this movie this Saturday on Great American Family at 8 p.m.
I'm so excited for everyone to see it. I am absolutely giddy.
So, before we go into the questions, can you tell us a little bit about what this movie is about and how it is linked to the first one, A Prince in Paradise?
Yeah, 100%. Well, like when we were shooting the first movie, when we shot both movies here in Australia. Mm-hmm. And when we were shooting the first one, even in like the end of day 3, I was like, I got a great idea for a sequel. And I'm walking around talking to the actor, literally on that beach. I'm like, what we should do? We should do another one where we go over to Europe and go over to Tarovia and we meet Alexander's, we go to the castle and we meet Olivia's parents and everyone comes together. And I'm just kind of pitching it on the spot. And all the actors are going, yeah, that sounds great. That sounds really, really cool. And when, we finished the first film, we all just kind of went, this does lead. It feels right for a sequel. Like at the very end, he's going, if you trust me and if you believe in me and if you think we can do this, then we're going to have this amazing adventure. Mm-hmm. It's like that's literally saying, see you in part 2, like in a way, you know what I mean? And so when we finished the first one and it was, we were so happy and so lucky because it got a lovely reception all over the world, big hit in the States, big hit here, big hit all over the world. And so I was like, oh, fingers crossed. I really want to do a sequel. I'm texting Rhiannon and then texting Mitch going like, go hold, believe guys, if we believe it will happen. And then, just one day, Steve Jaggy, one of my producers, he just sent me a text message going, I have a big surprise for you, my friend. And I was like, oh, what is it? And he goes, we're going to Tarovia. And I went, whoa, yes. And so I knew then that like the sequel was on. And then he said, cool, well, you got to start writing the script. And so I worked with Kyra Bradshaw, my usual co-writer. She and I work on all the movies I directed. She and I have worked on together at the script. And we just dug into it. And so we were just like, okay, so what's the next chapter for these characters? And what would it be? We know we're going to go to Tarovia. I think, if we're going to go to a European castle, it's really got to be Christmas, right? Like we want to have snow. We need to have all the vibes. And so it was like, I think it's going to be a Christmas movie. And it just kind of grew from there.
So in most cases, all these Christmas films are not shot during the winter time frame. Was it a heat wave over there like it usually is here in the States and in Canada where it's 95 freaking degrees outside and you're supposed to be shivering with snow on the ground? What was the weather like over there during the shoot?
Yeah, you're 100% right. And what's crazy is that, like, as you may be aware, obviously, like, the seasons are flipped in Australia, right? Yep. So we shot it at Christmas, but it was unbelievably hot. It was such a crazy heat wave. And we knew this going in, all the actors, everyone, I was like, guys, I'm so happy that you're all such good actors because you're really going to need to feel that cold in the middle. I'm not too good with the with the American temperature system, but it was like 38 degrees Celsius, which is really hot. And the funny thing is that we all knew this, like, yeah, we're going to go in, and the actors like, yeah, cool. And obviously we had like all the air conditioning set up for the actors. They got all their trailers, they got their green rooms. So as soon as we call cut, they can go off, they can cool down. We've got nice cold drinks for them. Everyone's taking care of them. But, there's this scene in the movie, you kind of see a little bit in the trailer where they first arrive at the castle. And that was day 1, getting out of the car, meeting the Queen, going in. And we got a warning that day. This is going to be one of the hottest days for the last few years. It was a total heat wave. And this is when all of my guys are getting out of the car. They're in like 4 layers, like scarves. They got gloves. We've got fake snow everywhere, and like this is it. This is exactly what I'm talking about. And they are absolutely sweltering. And they were all such champs because as soon as I called cut, they were off like a shot back to their trailers to cool down. But thankfully, after that, we never had a day that bad again. But when you watch the movie, I think it's completely convincing. It looks really, really great. I've some of the cast have seen a few little clips from it yet. They haven't seen the movie either yet, but they've seen it and they go, "Oh my gosh, it looks so cold! It looks so convincing." It's almost like I wasn't having a meltdown. So yeah, it was an interesting challenge.
This picture here, they're acting.
They are acting.
Mitchell's like, "Get me air conditioning. Get me in on the inside." He's like, "Dude, if you don't cut right now."
Yeah, I could see it in his eyes, and it's like, no, they were great. Mitchell's that kind of guy. He'd be like, "No, I'm up for another one. Let's do it again. Let's do it again." It's like, homie, it's all good. Take a break. Cool down for a minute. I don't want you collapsing.
And then you have one woman who's becoming the biggest star in the world now. She started out in these smaller roles, right? But with Rhiannon Fish. What does she like to work with on set? I've spoke to a couple actors and a couple people who've worked with her. And how is she on set and as a person off set?
I could not tell you more. Like, I love her to death. Like, Rhiannon is so lovely. She's such an angel. This was on the first movie. I had casting on the movie, like I wrote the script. And so I had an idea of like, okay, well, I know what these characters are and I'm going to look at casting options. And the producers, I was obviously familiar with Rhiannon. I'd seen her work here in Australia. I'd seen some of her other rom-com work. I was obviously very familiar with her from the 100, the show that she was on. And so I was very familiar with her, but then they said, we'd like you to consider Rhiannon for this part, like it wasn't they were like, just have a look at her and we'd like to see what you think because we would really love to work with her. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, absolutely. So I had a little bit of a closer look at her material and I was like, oh my gosh, she's perfect. Like she's just so fantastic. She's such an amazing actor. She's got such a great range. And she's kind of like, yeah, that kind of suits the, like how I was envisioning the character a little bit. And so then I met her on a Zoom and she was so sweet and so lovely and so kind and generous. And so I knew she was absolutely perfect for the part. And then we met for the first time like the day before we started rehearsals, and she flew in down to Australia, and she arrived at like midnight. You know what I mean? And so because it was a long flight, I think there were a few delays, and so the producers and we were all staying in the same hotel, right? And so the producers saying, we're going to go pick her up, and then we're going to bring her back here, and then would you like to stay up to say hi to her? And I said, yes, absolutely. I'd like to see her. So I'll stay away. I couldn't fit in the car. There wasn't enough room in the car to go with her. But then I got a text and saying, we're here. Come on down. I went down to the street. The door opens, and we're across the road from each other. And she goes, Adrian, and runs across the road. And she comes up. She goes, do you mind if I give you a hug? And I went, of course. And so that was literally how we first met, with a big hug. And so it just kind of went from there. But what was so amazing about working with Rhiannon, and I admit it was the same with working with all the other actors, because the cast on these movies are absolutely incredible, but she's such a pro. She's so experienced. And, we shoot these movies really fast. Like, you know what I mean? Like, as some movies shoot for 3 months, 6 months. We shoot these movies in 2 weeks. So like you've really got to roll. You've got to know exactly what you're doing. And she is such a pro. She was there, ready to go. And the best thing about, when you cast a movie right, I'm sure people have told you this before, but like when you cast a movie right, if you've done the right job and you've got the right actor, as a director, it's kind of easy. You know what I mean? Because they'll get the script and they'll do the performance. And I don't have to go over and go, okay, let's think about your motivation. With Rhiannon, I might go, hey, a little faster, a little slower here. And she'll be like, got it. Yeah, 100%. Yep. She is so on point. Or maybe there'll be one thing, I'll be like, that little bit there, maybe try doing that. And she's like, oh, I totally get it. No problem. And she just smashes it. She's and no matter what I want to do, no matter what the suggestions are, she is just like, you got it, boss. And if she's got an idea, because the thing is, on my movies, I really like, especially because I'm one of the writers, I like to say to the actors in advance, I really welcome everyone's ideas. I really welcome everyone's suggestions for dialogue, for characters, for scenes. You know, if it's a good idea, we'll take it. Like if it makes the movie better, we'll take it. And with great actors like Rhiannon and Mitchell, and these actors have got ideas, you know, like for what would be a good, could I say this? Or, you know, what's a really good sign of a great actor like Rhiannon? She does this all the time. She'll be like, you see this line? Can I just not say this? Could I just do this with like a look? And I'll be like, yeah, absolutely. It's all, you know, it's like, I can just do, she's like, I can just do this with acting, you know, and I'm like 100%, you know? And so she'll be simultaneously like so ready to go and be like, yes, sir. And then maybe the day before she'll be like, I have some ideas for this and this. What do you think? And I'll be like, these are all so good. Let's do it. So like working with Rhiannon on the first one was a joy. Working with her on the second one was a joy. Like I was just texting her yesterday, like we're so excited. And, you know, I would love to work with Rhiannon again. Like I would just love to keep working with her forever. She's incredible.
Well, let's go into this. Is there any talks of a third one? Maybe introducing a baby into the mix? Maybe do a baby movie?
I'll tell you this much. We don't know. There's no word on anything else. You know, obviously we've got to see how number 2 does. I can only, and I can't speak for anyone else, but I can only say that for me and for Kyra, the other screenwriter, we definitely have ideas for where the story could continue to go, and some really, really exciting possibilities. But we haven't spoken about that with anyone, and we're just, you know, patiently and very great, you know, like we're so grateful that we got to make number 2. You know what I mean? Like it's very rare, and it's a real privilege and a real luxury that, you know, everyone was like, yep, we want to do this. And everyone, all the way from the producers, all the way, Great American Family, everyone's so supportive, such great collaborators. And so fingers crossed, but at the end of the day, if this is the end of the story, I think it's a beautiful, beautiful ending that people will love. But there's nothing to say at the end of this movie that this story could not continue. So we'll see. Yes.
So we have talked about Fish, but how is our boy Mitchell Burke as a person? Man.
So, I mean, very, very similar. Mitchell he's actually become, much like Rhiannon, we've become mates. You know, we've become really good friends. We're texting each other pretty much like every day, you know, and he's so enthusiastic. He's such a positive, upbeat guy. And he's so locked in and just loves what he does. And he just loves the excitement. He loves the fans. He loves the audience. You know, but with Mitchell, it was very, very different, you know, because I cast Mitchell. Like I kind of found Mitchell, you know, he'd done some stage work. He'd done some short films. He'd done some television. He was a fantastic actor. But I'll tell you, in the first movie, he arrived at the 0 hour. Like we were searching for the prince. We'd done some auditions. We'd done some camera tests. We'd even done some chemistry tests, like with Rhiannon and some other actors to see, okay, how are these guys going? And we kind of narrowed it down to a few high contenders. But I was never 100% happy with, and they were good actors, you know what I mean? They were gentlemen that would have done a great job. But I was just, okay, all right. Well, you know, I had that feeling of we're going to make it work. And, you know, it's kind of like, well, Rhiannon's perfect. And this is going to, you know, it's going to work out. And then like a week before we started shooting, my casting director, Ben, sent me this email. He sends an email to the producers going, this guy has just sent in his tape. He's really late, but he was doing another job and blah, blah, blah. And I go, that's the guy. Like straight away, like that's the guy. He's perfect. And so then they were like, okay, well, he's a little bit green, you know, like he's not someone that, you know, GAC, like, you know, Great American Family, they're not familiar with his work. So we need to kind of get, who is this guy? And so then I met him for a coffee, like just down the road from the office. And I met him and he's got this great presence and he's just got this really, you know, he's like Mitchell comes from Queensland. So he's a kind of a, you know, he's not a rough and tumble guy, but you know, like he knows how to work with his hands and go out there and work on a farm. Like he's a tough guy, you know what I mean? Like he's an Aussie country kind of guy. And so, but I was like, but nevertheless, I can see that he's got such potential to be so dignified and to really have this amazing presence. He's got this amazing voice. He's got this incredible like persona. And so I said, well, hey, buddy, like, look, you're my favorite for this part, but I'm going to you got to meet the producers, and I need you to kind of be as princely, as can, be kind of bring that presence. And so then I brought the producers in. We had a big coffee, we had a big lunch, and then we were like, okay, well, Mitchell, thank you so much. We're going to have a talk, but we really appreciate it. It's nice to meet you, and all the best. He's like, okay, bye. And then I turned to the producers, and I'm like, and they were like, he's the guy. And so I was like, yes, he's the guy. And so Mitchell is the same. He is he's such an amazing actor with incredible instincts. And it's again that thing where if you hire the right person for the role, you can kind of fire and forget. You know what I mean? I don't mean that literally, but I can go, we'll start a scene and we'll roll a take, and I'm not going to go in there and go, okay, guys, so in this scene we're doing this. And, if the actors need me to refresh their memory, what was the scene we were just doing? Because we shoot these things out of order. I'll do that. But then I'll just go, okay, well, let's just go for a take, because you want to see what their instincts are. You know what I mean? And then we'll just like, okay, on that bit, maybe just do this, because they're so on, and they know the characters so well. And it's a joy. Like, I will call cut and I'll just be like, guys, thank you so much. A beautiful job. Let's move on. So yeah, and I want to work with Mitchell so many more times. He's such a diverse actor. He really can do so much.
Mm-hmm. So this is a Christmas film that has the word proposal in it. Do we see the wedding in the end of this film?
I cannot tell you that. You will have to see the film.
Okay. I've tried. I've looked through all the press pictures, and I'm like, there's no picture of the dress or of a wedding. So
yeah, you'll have to see.
How to word this? We saw Rhiannon wear a dress in the first one. Is there a similar dress that's more elegant in this film?
There is a beautiful, beautiful dress in this movie that is, I remember the day where Andrew, my costume designer, he kind of knocked on the door and poked his head in my office. He's like, "Are you ready to see the dress?" And I was like, I was a little nervous, because it's it's a subjective thing, right? You know what I mean? Like, when you picking these things, people will go, oh, "I love the dress, it's beautiful," and someone else will go, like, "Not for this dress," but in general, people will go, "I love the dress." Someone else will be like, like, not my style at all. So you always want to have a dress that you're going to get as many people as possible to just be blown away by it. But Andrew, who's the costume designer in this movie, I mean, if you look at the stills and the trailers for this movie, I mean, look at the wardrobe. It's stunning. He is such a pro. He is so experienced. And it's a step, like the beautiful costumes we have in this movie are just some of the best I've ever had in a film. And the dress in this movie for the Christmas ball, is all I'm going to say, is absolutely stunning. And when you see Rhiannon coming down the stairs in that dress, it's absolutely breathtaking. I know that when the characters see it in the movie, they're not acting. They are really just like, wow. So yep. I'm super excited to see it, and for everyone to be able to react to it.
And all honesty, half of that is because it's just her. It's really just her, but also it's the dress and her.
That's right.
So seeing all the dresses that she's been in all the films, I have a feeling this one might be the best one yet. Just by the way you're reacting and talking about the dress, I have the feeling this might be the best dress she's ever worn in a film.
I personally think it might be. You guys will have to be the judge. I know that Rhiannon was very fond of it, and I know that, this is the fun thing about it, right? This is why these movies are fun for me to make, fun for us to make, fun for the actors. Being a prince or being someone who gets to dress up for a royal ball, that appeals to like the kid in all of us, right? Mm-hmm. That appeals to, because I say this to the actors and all the crew all the time when we're on set. Maybe it's a hot day, like I told you about. Maybe we have to run a little late. Maybe we have to do a bit of overtime or whatever. And I say to the actors and the crew, I go like, "Isn't it great, guys? We're getting paid to do adult dress ups. You know what I mean? Yeah. We're all getting dressed up and we're all pretending to be in a big castle. Isn't this the best? Our 9-year-old selves would just be wow." And it's true. We get to have these amazing wardrobe and have have characters talk like they're we don't talk like this in real life, but it's so much fun. So I can't wait. I really when I don't want to spoil anything, but for the Christmas ball in this movie, when all the extras started showing up and all the extras are dressed in wardrobe that you could put on the main cast, I was like, this is amazing. I can't wait. Yeah. I'm just taking photos of them like everywhere. And they're like, is that the photographer? No, that's the director.
He's both. No.
Yeah. But I'm like, guys, when will I get a chance to see this again? Like, this is incredible. So,
I have to ask. Some actors get to take their dresses and suits home. Did anybody if you can say it, did anybody take a dress or a suit or anything from the costume department from this film or the last film?
it's a good question. I think, I, th- I think there was a couple of little bits and bobs pinched on the first movie. I certainly didn't steal anything. I wasn't able to wear anything, so I didn't get a chance to pinch anything. On this picture, I mean, I guess you'd have to ask Rhiannon or Mitchell or the rest of the actors. I don't know, simply because some of the wardrobe on this is pretty upmarket, and I think the wardrobe department was keeping tabs on everyone. And as soon as they came back to their dressing rooms, everyone's like checking off. And where is those suspenders? And it's like, oh,
Yep.
I'm sorry, they're in my mistake. So I think I don't, but maybe once this movie's out, you're going to get a funny tweet from Mitchell and Rhiannon going, "Here's everything we stole." So I don't know.
I hope to talk to him. I'm trying, but
I'll put in a word for you.
Thank you. I've spoke to a couple people who's worked with them, and they say they're both phenomenal. But
yeah.
One thing that I always love to ask, you make the films, but a lot of people's favorite part of being on set is the catering. What was the food like on set?
Well, that's funny, right? Because on this show, and it's always kind of different, right? On this show, we had the catering for like the first couple of days was a little bit. How would I describe it? I don't know. I think maybe they got the orders wrong, and everyone was like, "Huh? This is some of the weirdest food we've ever seen." And then I think someone said something, and then it got all corrected. And then afterwards, it was suddenly became like the catering table fit for actual royal. Like at the end of the day, we had like brie cheese and like all sorts of stuff that was all set up, and I was like, okay, this isn't props, is it? Like, what are these doing here? And then it was like, no, they're just kind of going a bit more upmarket. And I was like, okay, great, no problem. I'll enjoy this. So after like day 3, catering was fantastic. Like, I'm a vegetarian, so I've got to have my like special little side thing, which I always feel privileged by. Everyone, all the actors have got their stuff, and then I've got my little thing with my name on it. But like, I'm one of those guys. My favorite day on any of these is always when we have like Mexican day. Like whenever we get like the tacos and the nachos and the tortillas and all those things out, I'm always like, guys, it's Mexican day. So that's always my favorite day. It's always Mexican food day.
Well, here's a little story, right? One person that I am good friends with, he did a cooking film, and he said, so everyone on set went, it's understood that when we call cut, the food only lasts so long. It's only good for so long. So the director gets the honor of eating this food immediately afterwards. And I'm like, dude, did you literally eat everything? He says the steak, the cakes, the cookies, all the scallops went to me, and I went, that's why you did this movie, because they had the best chefs on hand. And he goes, well,
that is so good.
In my mind, thinking back, I'm like, well, the actors like to keep their fit so they can stay in the wardrobe as perfect as possible. So I guess it makes sense. And as that director, you're not seen behind there.
That's
so
right.
we're seeing them. We're seeing the food as they're eating. And if nobody knows how a lot of shows go, if it's not something that shoots, say, within 2 weeks, like all these films do, right? If you're doing take after take after take, most of the time they're spitting that food out into a trash can because they've eaten 100%. That at least 8 to 12 times. And I don't care how good that food is. If I'm taking the same stupid bite 8 to 12 times on a movie set, I'd probably do the same thing.
100%. And it's so funny, right? Because like Rhiannon, Rhiannon's vegan, and so
Mhm.
we have a scene in this movie. Don't want to spoil it, but we have a fantastic scene where they go and have like a Christmas, like it's like a Christmas treat feast. Like they have a special like indulgence where they're just having sweets, right?
Mhm.
And so Rhiannon's like, well, these got to all be vegan so that I can, because I want to be able to go, oh, I want a bit of that. I want a bit of that. I want a bit of that. And we were, okay, great. That's no problem. So all our catering guys and the prop teams, they all collaborated and we had all these delicious vegan things. And she was like, oh my God, this is so good. This is so good. And then halfway through, she's like, I've got to remind myself to stop eating these because I've got to keep doing all these takes. But she's like, oh, I never get good vegan chocolates. These are so great. And then I was like, maybe I should just quickly have a few as well. I'm like, oh my gosh, these are so, so good. But the funny thing about it is that normally for me on a film set, I'm the guy that at lunch, I'll probably have like a really small dish just because I'm really energized and I got a lot of adrenaline going, what's the next shot? Like, oh, when are we going back to work? And and as a director, you got to be thinking, 2 hours ahead,
Yeah.
and so I'm always running around and people go, have you eaten? Have you eaten? I was like, oh no, I'm good. And then exactly the cinematographer, all the other people, because they've actually got to do heavy lifting and stuff, they're squaffing down all the food, you know what I mean? So it's always a funny vibe on a film set, different food attitudes.
Well, each person has their own job. So some
That's right.
filmmakers, they like to help out. Are you one of those where you'll say, grab a light and try and move it to this place here to get as many shots in as possible? Or on your sets, is there enough staff for each thing?
Yeah, we're always fully crewed. And look, I completely take your point. Like I'm definitely a director who is how do I put this? Well, let me answer the question first. So I would never move a light or anything like that, just because, first of all, Fung, my cinematographer, who I've worked with on Royal One, Prince in Paradise and Christmas Castle Proposal, same cinematographer. He's got an amazing team, the same team that we worked with on the first movie, and they are so good at their jobs. Amazing gaffers, amazing camera operators, amazing camera assistants, and they are just such a well-oiled machine. Fung will say what he wants to see, and then they'll set that all up. And then I'll definitely have an opinion. And, what Fung and I do is we shot list and plan the whole movie in advance. So every single shot, we've either got a storyboard for it or we've got a breakdown for where we're going to be, or Fung will do a camera plan. Okay, the camera's going to be here, 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 here. So when we go in every day, we know exactly what we're going to shoot. We also know that when, if we have an idea or if an actor comes up with something or if the location suddenly presents something, you can always improvise. You can go, oh, we can do this. We'll get this as well. But because we're so prepared and because Fung is so good, I don't really need to go in and touch that kind of equipment or mess around with that, because it would probably, that would irritate him a little bit. I could certainly go, Fung, maybe this is a little bit, could I maybe see that a little bit less, a little bit more? And he'll go, yeah, no problem. And he'll know how to adjust that. But Fung is so good now, and I think truly, when you guys see this movie, I'm astonished at how beautiful it is, and I'm really that is not me bragging or gloating, because this is Fung, this is his work, this is the cinematography, him and his team. I am so amazed at how gorgeous a result that they delivered. It's the most beautiful film I've ever worked on, and it's so just even though it was shot in Sydney in Queensland in the middle of summer, it looks like you're in the middle of a cold European winter. And there was maybe one time, I remember this right. There was one time where we were shooting a scene in the bedroom, and it's meant to be at night, and you can kind of see out a window, but it's got some, it's got like some blinds on it, and he put like a blue light out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of went over and I was like, Fung, that's a pretty bright blue light. This is meant to be nighttime. It kind of just looks like day or whatever. Can we make that a bit darker? And he's like, just trust me, it's going to be fine. And I normally would. And then I was like, I still think it's too blue. And he's like, just look at it through the camera. And I went, you're right. Just said, and so I was like, oh, you know what I mean? And then when I saw that footage in the movie, in the edit, I was like, this looks amazing. Like, it looks incredible. And if it had just been black, it would have just looked boring and lame. And you look at it now, especially when we play with the colors and stuff, it looks incredible. So I learned my lesson. I'll focus on the story, on the actors and the shots, and Fung will focus on making it look beautiful.
Yes. So let's go into this. In the first film, we had some swimming scenes.
Yeah.
How were these accomplished?
This was amazing. Like, this was a really, really interesting experience. So we shot that in a tank, in an aquarium tank, a huge big tank, which is full of all the sea life in that. And we shot it obviously underwater, and I'd never done this before. I'd never directed actors underwater. And the way it worked was we had this amazing experienced underwater camera operator who does this every day of his life and could just do it with his eyes closed. It was unbelievable. And I had a microphone that sends a signal underwater. And so the actors and the camera operators are literally underwater, and they can hear me talking under the water. And I was like, this is amazing. I've never even known this existed. But what was so funny was, and I know he's probably going to get angry if I say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Mitchell was terrified because there's a lot of marine life in that tank. You know what I mean? Like, when you watch that movie, everything, there's no stock footage. You know what I mean? Like, all that sea life is in that tank with them. And there are sharks, like, in that, like he says, he's like, there are sharks in there, but don't worry, they're not going to hurt you. And it's 100% true. There are sharks in there. They're not going to hurt you. They're completely docile. They're not hostile sharks. But you can imagine, as someone who's a little bit spooked by the water and spooked by maybe like a shark, Mitchell really had to summon his inner Prince bravery. And he was, and when he got in there, you could tell he was like, and getting in there, Rhiannon, who is like a stone cold pro, she was like, come on, let's go. It's not going to hurt you. You know, it was the opposite of the characters, you know what I mean? Because in the movie, she's meant to be so scared, and he's like, oh, come now. And it was the complete opposite. Like, he was like, okay, it's going to be fine. To his credit, when he got in there and started doing it, and then when he got out, he was like, that was awesome, let's do it again. And now he's like, I've completely got rid of my entire fear of like swimming with sea life. He's like, now I would do it again in a heartbeat. And he was very grateful for the experience. So, you know, but that was a really fun day. Doing that was a really fun day.
So with that sea, what was it like on this beach, and where was this shot? What was it, hot and easier to shoot these scenes than it was those scenes? Because I mean, with beach shots, it can be so freezing cold, maybe because of the breeze or something. Was it hot shooting these scenes, or was it hotter shooting something like this when you're actually in a heat wave wearing coats?
It's so funny that you asked this question, and you're going to get a great answer, because we shot the first movie in the middle of winter.
Yep.
So it was freezing, absolutely freezing. And not only that, but it was really wet, and it was raining pretty much every day. And I was like getting really nervous, because this is a movie called A Prince in Paradise. So it's got to look like paradise. It can't look like a prince on a cheap off-season vacation. Yep. So that when we were only on that island for 3 days. So what's interesting about A Prince in Paradise is, you know, we shot the whole movie in Brisbane, Australia, and Brisbane is in Queensland, which is very north in Australia, which is where it starts to get really tropical, right? Because it's getting closer and closer up to the Pacific. Mm-hmm. And so that island is an island called Tangalooma. If any of your listeners, if you ever go into Australia, like, you can go to that island. You can fly to Brisbane, which is one of the biggest cities in Australia. It's the capital city of Queensland, and you can get on a ferry and get to that island in less than an hour. It's absolutely incredible. I highly recommend it. But we shot the first movie in 12 days. And we were only on the island for 3. Like, so all the interiors, all the other stuff, you know, that's not on a beach, we shot elsewhere. And for the first 2 days, it was like gray and depressing. And the thing about that is, if the sun is not out and it's not reflecting on the water, and you don't get that golden reflection on the water, it just looks sad. It looks depressing. And so I was literally like praying, going like, oh, please, like I just need one day of sun. And we kept moving the schedule around, right? We're going like, dude, on the day that we're on the beach, that scene you just showed me, it's gotta be sunny. Like I can't cheat it. There's no way we can cheat it. I can't use visual effects. And on the day, the sun came out, it was glorious. It was a beautiful, beautiful day. And everything that just got the sun, we shot it in that day. So like they're out in the kayaks, they're out doing that walk, everything, volleyball, everything. That's all done in a one sunny day. And so that scene, whilst it was chilly and still pretty breezy, that was the best day, where it was like, oh, the actors don't need to pretend like it's hot. You know what I mean? But what was funny was this scene, we shot this scene in like a bunch of like continuous takes, right? Like the actors, to their credit, they had to, it's like a 5-minute scene or something. And they had to remember the whole scene word for word and do it again and again and again. And we had to be walking with them on the beach. And as you can imagine, like we've got a guy with like a Steadicam who's shooting it, and he's got to be like walking backwards. There's got to be a girl or a guy behind him walking in front, because humans, and Rhiannon and Mitchell, they're like walking and they're trying, as you know, like humans, unless you're like really paying attention, humans will naturally start to walk off to the side. Yep. Like we don't walk in a straight line naturally. We will. And so suddenly the camera guys are going, and they're kind of going towards the water. And Rhiannon and Mitchell are like trying to, like they're trying to course correct the camera guys and the camera assistant who's like, we're heading into the water. And there were a few takes where I had to kind of run in and just be like, nudge the camera guy back to the side.
This is expensive.
This is expensive gear. And because we're walking for this, and I think we timed it, it was like half a mile or something that these guys are walking. And you've got a thing, as you and your listeners know, like there's like a thing called a focus puller, right? He or she is the person who's keeping the shot in focus. Super tough when they're walking half a mile, and you've got to keep them sharp the whole time. And so the focus puller is kind of standing still at like the half mile point.
Yep.
Because they're doing it with like a radio remote controlled thing. And so they're watching them and then passing and then going and hoping that the actors don't get out of range of their like remote. So that day was so funny. Like it looks like a super easy scene. There's just two people walking down the beach. It's like one of the hardest things on the movie.
That's the thing, right? So many actors say there's 4 things I hate when shooting. It's when the weather doesn't cooperate. It's animals, because you never know how an animal is going to react. Kids, but also you never know how your first day on set meeting each other is going to be. So how were these two on set the very first day? Did they click and just right away?
Now I'm trying to remember. Okay, so let me just think. What was the first thing we shot on the first movie? I'm trying to think. Oh, okay, I remember it now. Yeah. So the very first thing we shot in Prince 1 was the kind of the montage where they're kind of getting to know each other, right? Because I usually like to start a movie with no dialogue. I'll just try to get like a few shots off that just involve, just to get everyone up, like it's just like let's just get some shots done, because the sooner you get started, the sooner everyone gets into their momentum. So if we can just get some quick stuff off, and then you get rolling. So I think the first shot is then kind of like looking at each other, just making lovey-dovey eyes as they're like he's practicing his speech, and immediately like I was looking at the script supervisor and the continuity people, and they're like, they've got good chemistry. they've got a good vibe, because the thing is that we do a thing called like a chemistry test, right? Where the actors will do scenes from the movie, but it's on Zoom, you know what I mean? Like it's like this. And so you kind of have to use your imagination and go like, okay, yeah, I'm feeling it. And sometimes you'll be like, wow, the chemistry is there even in the Zoom. This is going to be awesome. And then sometimes you're like, it's definitely there, but we're going to need to rehearse and work on it and blah, blah, blah. when we did the chemistry test with Rhiannon at the end of it, and obviously we're like, okay, thank you, Mitchell. Good luck. And we'll speak to you soon. And then me and the producers and Rhiannon, we all stay on and we talk about what do you think, and Rhiannon, what do you think? What was your vibe? And she actually said the same thing. She goes, he's the guy. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, he's the dude. She's like, I felt it, like I feel it. And I think that in this new movie, they just take it to the next level, because what's so fun about doing a sequel is all those characters are established, you know who they are, you know what they're about, you know what their dreams and fears and all those things are. And so now you can explore them a little more, now we can get a little, and I was actually very grateful that Great American Family were like down for that. You know what I mean? Like, because they obviously have a really strong model that serves them really well. They have a very loyal audience. And obviously Hallmark, everyone, like, this is, I was having a conversation with people the other day about these movies. It's like, you don't understand, these movies bring a lot of people a lot of joy, and they really are important to them. So you've got to treat them seriously. As much as they're fun, you've got to treat them seriously. But in this one, it's not just, hey, boy meets girl, girl meets boy. Oh, there's some drama. We're like, we've been dating now for a year. Like, you're a prince. How do we make that work? Like, how do we manage our schedule? Like, and like, do I want to be a queen? Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's stuff in that we and like Great American Family were like, do it. Like, let's get in there and let's explore it. And I was like, this is great. So I think that in part 2, you get even deeper and like richer with those two characters, and they have like a bond, and there is a depth to their relationship that I think the actors were grateful to explore and did an amazing job with.
One thing about these films that everybody goes, why, right? Every single film, all of the actors are stupidly good looking, and it's like they're not real. So sometimes some people are like, how are they so good looking on screen? Are they actually like that in person? Well, here's the thing, right? As a podcaster who talks to some of the actors and everybody, yes, even over this, it's like God made them to do this. So as a filmmaker, what is it like seeing these two people who are this good looking have such are so good at their jobs that they make you believe that they're in love, but they actually aren't? How is that for you as a filmmaker and also as a fan of this genre?
Yeah, totally. Well, look, that's the thing. It's funny, right? Because I think that in these two movies, we do get a little bit of, how would I describe it? It's a fairy tale, right? Like, these are both fairy tale movies. And so you do have a bit of fun. We can afford to be like, well, they might be two of the most like beautiful people in existence, but you know what I mean? Like, it's a fairy tale, and you want it to be, all the things that you dreamed of when you were watching fairy tale movies and reading fairy tale books as a kid, you know what I mean? But that's the funny thing. It's so interesting, right? Because you see these people, the actors, they're real people like everyone else. And when you work with them so long, you see them when they look like $1 million, and you see them in the morning when they're like, oh, I had a really long phone call last night, and like, oh, there was a jackhammer next door, and I couldn't get a bunch of sleep, and they've got to get it, and they're just like us, like, I got to get a coffee and whatnot. And then when they suddenly switch on screen, and you're like, okay, I don't have that ability, like, I don't know how you can suddenly, they could just be, they might, and sometimes we're shooting in a public place, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes we'll be shooting, well, they'll be like, the background talent is not background talent, it's real people. And they'll sometimes be talking, or they'll be like, someone will yell out or say something. Not easy for an actor, to be able to do that. And yet they'll still just be like completely honed in and able to just completely be in the moment. So when I'm watching these things on the camera, it's impossible not just to be grinning, you know what I mean? Because you're just like, this is magic. Like this, and you kind of, I just want to get into the editing room and start and toying with this. And what I end up saying, I think I've done this on every movie I do, not like it's not like a tactic or anything. It's genuine. It's really genuine. Like at the end of every day, I text all the actors and just say, thank you. Like, because they always do an amazing job. And for me, it's so rewarding and satisfying because at the end of every day, I was like, I just got so much gold today. All my dreams are coming true because these guys are showing up and making this real. And so I just send them a text message at the end of every day, go, you're just amazing. Thank you so much. And it's not about buffing up their egos. It's not about it's not about them being actors. It's about genuine gratitude to amazing people that are committing, as I said, to the adult dress-ups, right? We're doing adult dress-ups here. It's an adult fairy tale. And yet when you watch this movie, especially number 2, like, I think there's real like humanity and like real genuine human emotions and feelings in these characters. And the fact that they show up every day and just make that happen, I can't do it.
No.
They're a special type of person.
Well, with all the actors, right? These 2 actors have some of the best on-screen chemistry in a rom-com film. Well, in the first one, obviously, I have not seen the second one yet. I haven't seen the second one. Some people think you get paid because you do a podcast. I'm like, do you think they'd be paying me to do an interview and watch a movie early? I mean, I get screeners, yes, but Hallmark and Up TV and Real One, they don't send out screeners for review. So for me, right? We watch these as fans. Why do you think these films click with everybody in such a warm way? And why do you keep coming back to this style of story, of these clean family rom-com films?
Well, I'm a fan, like, you know what I mean? And so for me, look, it really started from wanting to do family is the word, right? Like I wanted to do movies that the whole family could enjoy. And that's actually, it doesn't get much more complex than that. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to watch a movie that a grandparent and a grandchild and everyone in between can sit down and watch, and also not have to be, no one has to be kind of putting up with it. You know what I mean? Like there's something in there for kids, something in there for people in their 30s, something in there for people in their 60s and beyond, you know, something that, and that's why we want to have, and especially in number 2, it's not just about Olivia and Alexander. We spend some time with Queen Patricia and with Ridley, her partner, and we explore kind of the romance of the parental characters. You know, Olivia's parents are here. We explore their relationship, their marriage, what their family life is like. And that, I think, really allows for every kind of demographic to be represented and to be seen. And obviously, every one of those characters plays a part in the story and ends up playing a key role. So for me, like, and make no mistake, like I've made other types of movies. I've made action movies. I've made thriller movies. I'm working right now on another movie, which is very, very different from these pictures. But I will always be happy to come back to direct these types of movies because, you know, at the end of the day, the reason I make movies is to entertain people. Like I don't make movies for like money or fame or anything, you know, like I'm not a rich person by any stretch of the imagination. You know, I'm chatting to you today because you're a fan and I want other fans to learn about the films and to enjoy them, but we make them for the fans. You know what I mean? Like when we are working on them, when we're writing them, when we're talking about them, the number one thing that you will hear on set is like the fans are going to love that. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like you're doing it, and if you're a fan, you make it for yourself, and the odds are the other fans are going to like it too. You know what I mean? So for me, what I loved especially about the Royal movies is that slightly heightened quality. You know, like it's that, you know, Olivia is obviously quite a real kind of character. She speaks like a real kind of person. But the Royals, that's a bit heightened. You know, it's that fairy tale vibe. They're speaking in a way that, you know, it's a little bit, it's not corny, but, you know, it's that cute kind of heightened. Posh, exactly. It's that kind of thing. And that's super fun. Like, I got to admit, like, that's super fun. And I'll cue you in, like, you know, like I said, my co-writer, Kyra, who I've known for like 15 years. We've worked together for 10. Uh, when we do the first draft, because we write the movies together and we'll work out the treatment, we'll get like a 15-page version of the story. And then once that's done, we've got to write the script. And so we'll split it up and we'll go, okay, I want to take this scene. I want to take this scene. I want to take this scene. But what we'll usually end up doing is I'll usually write Alexander's stuff and she will write Olivia's stuff. And then we'll swap. You know what I mean? And then we'll go over it and go, and she'll be like, wow, you really like writing this posh shite and stuff. And I was like, and you really like writing, like a 30-year-old woman who's like, like figuring out the world. And, it's like, I wonder if there's any of ourselves in these characters. You know what I mean? Like, let's not go too far to that. But, but we, at the end of the day, we want to make movies that people like and that people enjoy, people want to watch again. The world can be a complex and tough place sometimes. We just want to make movies that people enjoy, can throw on and have a bit of an escape.
Mm-hmm. And the final question for this film in particular. What is the one word to best describe this film? Just one word, whether it's love, royal, or magic. What's that one word that you would say to get somebody to watch this film in particular?
I would say family.
Family.
This is a movie about family, and it's a movie about the family that we have come from. It's about the families that we make and the families that we are welcomed into, and what that means and what it means to be part of a family, what it means to be honest and to be supportive with your family. And obviously, as a Christmas movie, it's about coming together as a family. And I think that when you see it, that will be very obvious.
So with the Christmas questions now, what's your favorite Christmas movie of all time?
Wow, that is such a good question. Oh my gosh, I didn't prepare. I feel so unprepared.
Oh, no. Many people will look at me and go, well, can I go 5? Yes. And then multiple people have asked me, does Die Hard count? And to me, yes. Because if something like, say, maybe the Home Alone films, right? They're set in Christmas, but they're not a Christmas story. They're set around that season. And if Die Hard is set on Christmas Eve with a Christmas party, it's considered a Christmas movie. So with that being said, what are some of your favorite films? Not just one.
Well, that is a great question. Okay, so there's definitely a few. I mean, look, I'll say Die Hard just because it's a funny answer and it's a good movie.
Yes.
I mean, I really love Love Actually. I've always loved that movie, and I think that's a great Christmas movie. And I remember seeing that. That's like a 20-year-old movie now, which is crazy. I saw that in the cinema when I was younger, and I love that. I love Elf. I love The Grinch. I'm trying to think of some of the others. I mean, I love the original Miracle on 34th Street, which is like an amazing, like beautiful classic, which I think is just so let me just think. And I'm sure there's like something I'm missing. I feel like, another one. That's what I was thinking of. Something from my childhood that I really, really love, which is a little bit unconventional, but it's a movie called Jingle All the Way. It's a movie that's got Arnold Schwarzenegger in it. I saw that movie. Put the cookie down. I saw that at Christmas in the cinema when I was 10 years old. And my whole family went to see it because we were like, we want to go see a Christmas movie, but my dad, he loves action films. So it's like, we go see Arnold, you know what I mean? And it was one of those movies where it was like, it really brought us together as a family because there was a big, and if your listeners haven't seen that movie, the whole premise of Jingle All the Way is it's about a dad who's left it too late to get the important gift for his son. It's the most popular action figure toy, and he was supposed to pick it up months ago, and now they're all sold out, and he's desperate to get this toy on Christmas Eve. Otherwise, Christmas is ruined. And that has that felt a little close to home for my family. There's been a few times where they were like, "Oh boy, we might have left this a little bit too late," and so
Yep.
that kind of there was a little bit of my parents going, "Ooh, this feels very familiar," and we had a big laugh, and we all kind of came together, and I remember we left that movie, and as we were leaving, the janitors there were actually it was right at the end of it. The janitors were packing up all the posters for it because we left at the end of the night. And I was like, "Hey, can I have one of those?" And they gave us a poster, and I've still got that poster to this day. So that's kind of like for my real like kind of family memories. That was a great Christmas movie.
Well, when I think I might have been 10 or 11 years old. No, I had to be 8. I went over to a friend's house, and we were only allowed in his room and in their living room. So
right,
they had a select variety of tapes. And at 8 years old, we can't really watch, say, like a Dirty Dancing or a Ghost.
yeah.
So great movies, fantastic. And Swayze's the man. But
Iconic.
I mean, one thing that I'll always remember for the rest of my life, and I hold this dear to me, it's Home Alone 2.
Love it.
One summer, me and my friend who live right next door to each other in the same houses for like 20 years. Oh my Lord, we watched Home Alone 2 every single day from the time we got out of school until like a week before school. I guarantee you we saw that thing maybe 80 times that
That's
summer.
awesome.
And it is still the greatest thing ever because I can pop that on and I still laugh my butt off continuously as if I'm 5 years old again.
I love those movies. I actually do love 2 like a great deal, and I know exactly what you mean, and that's why you and I obviously are big movie fans, right? Because we're the sort of people that be like, I can just keep watching this movie. Like
Yep.
and I remember like there was when I was a kid, like I used to watch movies like twice in a day.
Yep.
And my grandparents, I remember, I'll never forget. I watched The Lion King once when I was like a little kid, and then I just took the tape, like rewound the tape, and just like press play on it again. And my granddad popped his head in the window. He's like, "How can you watch the same movie straight after another?" And I just went, "Because it's great."
Oh,
so
my mom, when I was younger, we went to the library every single week, and it didn't matter. She always got the same movie, and I always got the same exact movie. Mine was The Emperor's New Groove. I always got that.
classic,
I mean, iconic movie.
truly.
But hers was Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Love
So,
that too.
I mean, if we can watch that maybe 5 times each weekend, to me as a movie fan, it's what makes you happy. And if a
100%.
film can make you happy, like these films do, I mean, my family has not turned off the Hallmark Channel or any of the Christmas movies since they've started.
Excellent.
And my family, they will fall asleep to any channel. We love all the channels, but it just depends on what's on. And if it's one of their favorite, it's just like it's comfort. It's charming. It's very familiar and it's warm. But
yes,
with the Christmas movies out of the way, what's your all-time favorite movies?
wow. Well, look, truthfully, what's super funny is like I was asking myself this the other day. I was like on my letterbox, and I was like, "What's my favorite movies?" You know what I mean? I gotta put this in. And it was funny because I looked at it and I was like, "Wow, I really have a huge love of sci-fi." Like I just wasn't even like expecting this to be the case, but I had to. I'm like, to backtrack a little bit, like as you were just saying about like watching movies so much because they bring you joy and you love to rewatch them. And like I said, like I'm the same. I will just rewatch films because I'll get different things out of them, or they're like comfort food. They make me feel like they just give you such great emotions. And that's why when I see comments from fans of these movies going, "I've watched it so many times. I keep watching it. It's my favorite comfort movie." As someone who is like that, that is what means the world to me. You know what I mean? Because that means we are doing something for other fans we're doing for them what movies did for us, and giving movies to people that they love, that makes their day better. That's why I got into it, because I love movies. I love making movies. But when it comes to my favorite movies, I thought about this for a long time. And my favorite movie is Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey. Like, that movie just completely, now that is a movie that I've seen in the cinema probably 5 or 6 times. I watch it a couple of times a year. I've got like posters of it that have been signed by the actors. I've got DVDs of it that have been signed by the actors. That is a movie that's not for everyone. It's quite a slow movie. It's a very, very kind of intellectual movie. It's not full of like action or humor and stuff like that. But for me, it is really like makes me feel like, wow, yeah, this is still like the only movie that makes me feel like this is what it would actually be like to be in space and to be doing these things, which I think is like amazing. And then after that, like, I love like Star Trek and Star Wars, like all those kinds of things. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just really kind of almost a cliche. You know what I mean? But I will say as well, like, the other stuff I love that informs these movies. All the Disney films, like all the, and you mentioned like Emperor's New Groove, like all those things cut from those cloth. Like, like I grew up, like I was born in 1986, right? So when I was growing up, all those animated Disney films were coming out in the cinemas. So like I was a kid when like Beauty and the Beast and like all these things were in the cinemas. And so that completely affected my brain. You know what I mean? Like, when we're doing these royal movies, I'm thinking about Beauty and the Beast, Snow White, Cinderella, Prince Charming, all these things, looking at all of those things and going, well, this is what I loved about that, and let's try to do that. And I know that there's a lot of these royal movies. You know what I mean? Like, there's heaps of them. We've watched them. I've watched them as a fan. And obviously then we had to watch them as research. You know what I mean? Like, hey, what are these guys doing? What do we need to do that's in the same league? What do we need to do that's maybe different? But I would say that it's actually probably those Disney movies that really kind of like, what are we here to do? We're here to bring joy. We're here to take people on an adventure. And, I guess I've learned to do that from all the movies I love. But yeah, like 2001 for me is a movie that's always been amazing to me.
I did the same thing as you. All my groups of friends on Letterboxd went, what's your top 10 favorite films? And I went, well, I guess so. I guess I got to go through a list.
Yeah.
And I went through and I'm like, I love this one, but I don't want to cut it.
Yeah.
So to finally get it down there, I tried to put a different type of film in each slot.
That's smart.
But then ultimately, I just went with what's my comfort food?
Yep.
So it literally goes from, say, The Breakfast Club to the Great Greatest Showman. And then,
love The Greatest Showman. Oh my gosh. Oh, it's so good. We were at the rap party for the first movie. We had The Greatest Showman soundtrack playing, and so that was just like pumping through the speakers. And Cara, who plays Katie, she was belting out The Greatest Showman soundtrack at the end. It was great. It was awesome. It was awesome.
This is the greatest show.
So good. So good.
And then it went down a hole where I went, well, we had musical, we had teen drama, right? And then we went into the rom-coms with a Shrek, when Harry Met Sally, and then everybody goes, "There's no Godfather." I'm like, you're trying to tell me, right? If you had your option right now to sit through The Godfather 3 times compared to Shrek, you're telling me you'd sit through The Godfather 3 times compared to Shrek. I can sit through Shrek 4 times. The amount of time it gets to get through The Godfather 2 times. So
that's actually true. You could squeeze a few Shreks into one Godfather. Great. I'll tell you what I would do. I would probably watch The Godfather and then immediately put on Shrek just to give myself like a bit of a palate cleanse, like just mix it up a little bit.
Yeah. Go from like a horse head in the bed.
Yeah.
To a dragon eating people.
That's right. It's so funny you mentioned Shrek as well, right? Because funnily enough, like Shrek was like, you know, we can't, like if you in our world movies, if we're starting to get into like any kind of Shrek territory with like the ironic kind of, that's probably too far. Like, you know what I mean? Like we got to stop. We can't. We got to stop before you're making fun of it. You know what I mean? It was like, great. These are our borders. That's the it's the Shrek territory is like just mocking it mercilessly. We don't want to go that direction. That's their turf.
Uh, well, we could talk for hours and hours and hours, man. But my final question to you, well, two final questions actually, is
Sure.
who are some actors in the rom-com verse that you would love to make a film with, whether it's with a GAC or another channel? Who are some of those actors that you would love to make a film with?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple. I mean, and fingers crossed I get to jam with these guys in the future. I mean, I also work as an editor, so I've edited a couple of Hallmark pictures, and I edited a movie called Hearts Down Under. I believe it was called Hearts Down Under for you guys. It was called Romance on the Menu for us, but the star of that was Cindy Busby,
I
and
just talked to Cindy.
yeah, she is. So the thing is, she's so lovely and so nice and so great. And what was so lovely is that I visited. So obviously, as the editor of that movie, I'm in a dark room cutting the movie whilst they're shooting it. They're all having fun shooting the movie. I'm in a dark room going, "This looks so much fun. I wish I was there." And then on every one of those jobs, you always get a day where the producers are like, "Well, come to set. Like let's all come to set, and we'll get everyone there, and everyone can meet." And so I was there, and I came along, and I'm kind of sitting in the background. I don't want to disturb anyone, and then Cindy goes, "Is that Adrian?" And I'm like, I've never even met her before. As an editor, I've spent, days looking at her face for hours, but I've never met her. I was like, "Is that Adrian?" And she comes all the way around and she comes in, sits down with me, and we're talking. And she's like, "I've heard so much about you. Like, it's so nice to..." And she was so lovely and so kind. And by the end of the day, we were like mates. You know what I mean? And so I would love to work with Cindy, as a director. I would really, really love a chance to work with her. I would love a chance to work with, like Merritt Patterson. I mean, I think she's so talented, and she's done a couple of projects with the team that I work with here, and they've heard really good things about her. And but obviously, as an Aussie, like Daniel Lissing would be a huge. Yeah. I would love to work with Daniel, and fingers crossed, if there's a project coming up that I can work on with him, because again, some of the team that I've worked with here, they've worked with him on some other films, and they were like, he's cool and so nice and such a great guy, and so fingers crossed, but truthfully, like I think, I love, I love everyone and look, to be fair, like Great American Family have got some really good like actors that have come in like for this new season, that are just like, wow, that's cool. That's a great get. So, really, I'd love to continue to work with a bunch of the actors from that space, because, they've got to be good. They've got to be good to thrive in this world. They've got to be able to do the job. And so they're all kind of exciting to work with.
In this space, right? When everyone left one channel to go to another, some were picking sides. So now what we're left with is how do you see this as a film buff, but also as a fan? If you had to be in the middle, right, when this first happened, not as a actor or a writer or anything, right? What would you do? Just say, hey, these are the same exact films, the same story, and the same everything. Let's be friends. Or how would you feel from a higher up in those spaces? What do you think about that?
Well, look, I mean, here's the thing. First of all, as an Australian who lives all the way over here, we are a little bit separate from those conversations. We actually don't get Hallmark or Great American Family or any of those things. None of them are actually here. You know what I mean? So We, as a culture here in Australia, it's not as much of a thing that we're aware of. And when we're doing these movies, it's not really something that comes up.
Okay.
And I got to admit, I'm a little bit kind of out of the loop on all of that. And truthfully, because the one thing I do know for a fact is that with actors, with agents, with the folks that run these channels, there's complex relationships there that go back for a long way. There's a lot of stuff there that's way over my head and way over my pay grade. And, I'm a little bit ignorant of that sort of stuff. Ideally, I think, as you say, the movies are about, spreading goodwill, bringing hope, bringing love, bringing affection, bringing joy to people. So really, that's just my main focus, like just focusing on trying to tell these stories. And, I just remain really, really grateful that like this dude from Australia is able to make these movies that people all over the world are able to love. So, I'm just happy and grateful and hope to be able to keep doing it. And, whoever takes me, I'm happy to, I'm happy to be brought in.
Yes. And my final question is, we've talked about the lovely Cindy. I spoke to Cindy twice. I just spoke to her last week on a 3-person interview, who was so sweet. Love her to death. Love those guys to death. Who are some actors that you would love to see us have on this space?
That is a great call.
Would be the best interviews. And well, obviously these two stars, right, in this film, right? But
dude, there's no other answer. There's no other answer. And obviously, keep at it. Try, and like I said, obviously I'll post this. And I'll post this on my socials. So if I've done it, surely there's got to be a little bit of a motivator for them to do it. But look, that's the thing, because Rhiannon and Mitchell are so funny and so switched on, and they give such great answers, and they're such good, they're super fun to hang out with. As soon as we wrap these movies, we call cut. And then the next day, obviously, everyone's going to have a big party. But then me and the actors, we just go out for a huge lunch. You know what I mean? We just go oh, it's so great, just to kind of relax. And then we can kind of joke about, remember on day 3 when that happened or whatever. So it's got to be Rhiannon and Mitchell. We've got to get them on. And look, if it's got to be me bringing them on and be and we're all there, so be it. But look, I'll definitely, I'll put the word out for this, hopefully you can chat to them, because they're wonderful, wonderful people. And they also really love the fans, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's always what would the fans love? What, and it's that question of we've got to make sure we give them exactly what they want and
Mm-hmm.
give them that thing that they're showing up for, but in a way that's as fresh as we can make it, in a way that they haven't seen before. And Rhiannon and Mitchell are really locked into that. So they're good. They're really intelligent and good to talk to. You'll ask them the questions you've asked me, and you're like, that's a really insightful answer. So we've got to try to get them on.
Well, what I can do is we can talk right after the stream, and I have a small idea of how to do that, but we'll talk about that later. But
sure.
Ultimately, what this interview was all about was for me as a fan, because I enjoy the first one, but also because I'm just a fan of this space, really. This space gives us everything. It's warm, it's comforting, and we've shown that, hey, it's not old women, people. It's not just for old
100%. 100%.
At my job, one old lady, she had a Hallmark shirt on, and I said, you have a Hallmark shirt on, cool. Her eyes got about that big around. She goes, oh, you watch it too? And I'm like, yeah, I do. And there's her one husband goes, I don't like him. She goes, Hank, well, you don't let me watch my Gunsmoke anymore.
Guys, there's time for Gunsmoke as well. We've got time for Gunsmoke at Hallmark. It's so true, right? It's so funny. I was in LA not long ago, and I did I was being a bit of a tourist, and I did the the Paramount Pictures like backlot tour, right? You know, where they're like taking you around and showing you all that stuff. And I'm a, you know, we both tell we're both movie geeks, right? So I was like, this is amazing. I'm going like a tourist, and this is the alleyway where they shot the back of Citizen Kane's like catering truck driving away. I'm like, oh my god.
Yep.
But it was funny, right? Because the tour guide was, you know, as they always do. So does anyone know what happened here? And I'm like, is anyone else going to answer? And everyone's like, no. I was like, I can't resist. That's where they shot this thing from Top Gun, or that's where they shot this thing from that. You know what I mean? And like an hour into it, she's like, movie fan or filmmaker? And I'm like, both, right? And she's like, oh, cool, okay. And then we had to break for lunch, and she goes around all the tables and sits down. She's doing a thing, great tour guide. And then she sits down, she goes, so what movies have you done? Like, at the moment, I'm just working on a movie with Cindy Busby for the Hallmark Channel. And she was suddenly like, this is the person who works at Paramount Pictures. She's like, what? Like, you know, like she was 10 times more excited for Hallmark than anything that was at her work. You know what I mean? And she's like, what's the name of the movie? Oh my God. She's like running off to the office to get a piece of paper to write down the movie. She's like, when's the premiere date? Oh my God, I can't wait to see it. I'm so excited to meet you. What's she like in person? And I was like, suddenly I'm giving the tour to the Paramount.
Yep.
So they're everywhere. They're everywhere. And it's like, and as you say, like, I am so here and so grateful for all the old ladies that do watch these channels, but it is a huge demographic, all ages, all backgrounds, all types, because it's not like it's about a loyalty to it's not like it's a, you know, it's a sports team. It's each one of these movies, you know, like it's on the strength of the movies, right? Like you got to keep the quality up. You got to keep the movies strong. They got to keep doing what they do. That's why we have the fans. That's why we're fans. It's not blind. It's because we love these movies.
Mm-hmm. And with that, guys, it's been an honor to talk to you. I hope to get the other two on. We're going to cross our fingers, but you can see them very, very soon on Great American Family. GAC Family is going to have their premiere of A Christmas Castle Proposal, A Prince in Paradise 2, this Saturday at 8 p.m. on Great American Family. And also subscribe to Great American Pureflix because it'll be on there later this year. And as always, guys, like and subscribe if you're new. And I'm sorry, it was just me. But hey, it's just me and you're stuck with me. Anyways, guys, like, subscribe, and as always, keep your heart full of Hallmark.